Hi everyone, how are you? So good afternoon again, and thank you for joining us in another X Bytes powered by Tech Talks, and of course sponsored by X6. It's our fifth X Bytes of this year, and we have the pleasure to welcome Dominika. So let me just put you on the stage. Thank you, Dominika, to be here with us today. Dominika is one of the original team members at Payara, currently serving as the senior marketing specialist, I think, and community builder, uh, also in the same company. And I won't take much time, take much of your time because she can introduce herself far better than me. So, and of course, our viewers are here to see her and to see you, Dominic, and listen to your talk and not to me. So today, Dominic will be giving a talk on open source contribution, why is worth the hassle. So, and at the end, we'll have the questions left by our previous speaker, and then Dominika will ask you to leave also a question for the next speaker. So I think that is it, and I will put your presentation also on the stage, and the stage is all yours, Dominika. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me today. I think it's the first live stream that I'm doing, so great to be here. Okay, so hopefully those of you who are watching, you know why you're here for. So this is as Fabio mentioned, this is a presentation, a talk about open source, all about open source and why is it worth the hassle. So basically, why is it worth to get involved in the open source project? So hopefully this is something that you are interested in, and hopefully this presentation will help you to start and will convince you that it is actually something worth doing. Right, so a little bit about me. So I am, as Fabio said, I am a senior marketing specialist and community builder at Payara. Payara Services are a company. We are a company based in the UK and Portugal, and we are the creators of the application server Payara platform, which is Payara 7, Payara Micro, and also Payara Cloud. So I've been in Java industry since 2010, and I started my journey then working with a lot of other application servers that were on the market at that point. So JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, and Glassfish especially. And I've been with Payara from the beginning, which is about 2014 when Payara came to the world as a project at that point. And I've witnessed the journey of Payara from the project idea to a full established enterprise product. And all of that has been made possible through the community contribution, through the community spirit, through the community passion. So this is one of the things that I am personally really passionate about, is building Java communities, and with Jakarta EE at heart, because this is what we are. Jakarta EE certified. Jakarta EE is the project that we contribute to, and this is the project that we are supporting and leading together with other contributors. So I hope that some of you that are watching either live or recording are actually familiar with Jakarta EE or Java EE. So if you are using Java EE, then I do definitely encourage you to start thinking about migrating to Jakarta EE. But this is, so a lot of examples that I will be using in this presentation will be about Jakarta EE. Because obviously this is the technology that is close to what I'm doing and what I'm doing day to day. So over those years, since 2010, I've witnessed the power of community spirit and community contribution firsthand. And like I said, Payara would not exist without it. So this is why I would like to spread the love for open source and hopefully try and encourage more of you to start contributing to your favorite open source projects. So I guess a lot of us have at least a vague idea of what open source is, but let's look at some official definitions to put it all in the context. So open source software, according to opensource.com, is software with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. That is a really nice, really simple definition. And then this is the definition that sort of expands on it and explains it in, I think, really good terms, and puts it in the context that I really want to focus on for today. So open source initiative, opensource.org, defines open source as open source enables a development method for software that harnesses the power of distributed peer review and transparency of process. The promise of open source is higher quality, better reliability, greater flexibility, lower cost, and an end to predatory vendor lock-in. So this is a really important one. All of those elements about higher quality, better reliability, flexibility, all of this is at heart of open source, and no other closed source products can give you those benefits. And this is what I'm going to be talking about today. So textbooks definitions are one thing, but what does open source mean in practice, right? What open source projects are all about when it comes to us, software users, being part of them, not just as consumers, not just users of this software, but potentially as contributors and committers. So, so this presentation basically will focus on these 5 core elements of what open source is all about: empowering collaboration, skills enhancement, community building, impact and recognition, and continuous learning. And in the true spirit of open source, to build this talk, I asked around for some contribution as well. So I talked to a few of my experienced colleagues and some friendly Java champions. I mean, hopefully they're all friendly, but those that I've spoken to are very friendly, and I've worked with them on various projects. And I asked them all to tell me their experience with their open source contributions so that I can share those with you today. So this presentation is very much a collaboration in itself, because honestly, there's only as much as I can tell you about open source contribution and how important it is for everyone who is involved. And it's even better if those who have done it and whose careers were built on it and who experienced all the benefits of it to tell you why it's worth doing. So expect quite a lot of quotes here today, and some gifts, of course.
Sorry, Dominika. I was wondering here. Sorry to interrupt you, because I have a question that I would like to ask you, and I hope our viewers are also triggered by that. When you spoke about open source, and with open source is all about taking that into account from your perspective, what is open source all about as a community builder? Because in your company, because I also ask that because I am also a community builder in another perspective. I'm a community manager at X6, and I'm a community builder in some tech communities, and I would like to understand what is open source all about in this matter.
Yeah, so this is basically the essence of what I'm going to talk about. I think it's pretty well summarized here. Obviously, this is my sort of take on it, and open source is about many different things, probably for other people, but this is what I found as an essence, to what open source is all about. So. And this is what I'm going to focus on for the next couple of slides. So empowering collaboration, skills enhancements, community building, impact and recognition, and continuous learning. Like I said, these are, and especially community building, and I will talk about it a little bit more, obviously, in a few minutes. These are, I think, 5 elements that summarize open source best for me.
Thank you, and sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's all right. Thank you, Fabio. Okay, so yeah, so let's dive in. So let's start with empowering collaboration as one of those really important elements of open source. So open source fosters collaboration among developers. Through contributing to open source projects, you are learning from really diverse communities. There's people with different skills, there's people with different experiences, with different outlook, approaches to working with technology. Obviously, they're all coming from different backgrounds, different companies, different reasons for contributing to this project. all of that empowers the collaboration and makes it even more fruitful, because you have people with all of those different experiences and approaches to the project. That creates robust solutions collectively. So open source project would not be able to exist without this collective effort. It's not just an effort of one company, of one team. It's an effort of a mix of companies, mix of individuals, mix of people that work on their own projects, and they need this open source project to work for them. So it's a collective effort. And you get exposure to new ideas and new methodologies as part of the open source project. You get to experience this collective creativity, which is invaluable for your own personal development. And we're going to talk about this as well. So we're all in this together, and this is what makes open source projects that much better and that much more exciting and that much more fruitful, because there are so many different people that are able to contribute their skills, their knowledge, their experience, their time into those projects. So what does that mean in practice? So let's see what some of my contributors to my presentation said on this collaboration aspect of open source. So this is a quote from Peter, my colleague at Payara, with whom I occasionally work to create some educational content. So Peter said, I submitted a contribution when I met someone from Payara, so that is before Peter joined the team, and asked them for some simple task. The feeling was awesome when it was accepted. It doesn't matter that the fix was literally to move one letter inside one line. It took me several hours and fixed an existing problem. So I love this example because it not only shows the spirit of collaboration within open source project and actually excitement when you get to work with other people and they help you and you help them, but it's also a great example of how your contribution to the project you care about can actually affect your career and open up some new hiring opportunities. So it shows you that you don't need to contribute huge amounts of code, because in this case it wasn't, for contribution to be actually really valid and noticed. And needless to say, when hiring for the role that Peter now has within the Payara team, his previous contributions to the project were really important because they made him stand out from the crowd. And the fact that he was contributing to the project in the past obviously helped him to be chosen and to get the job that he was applying for. So this is actually one of my favorite quotes for today. And then there's another quote from Lukman, who is also a colleague of mine, and he's a Jakarta expert, and you might have seen many of his webinars that we run together regularly at Payara. So Lukman says, open source contribution allowed me to learn from and collaborate with experienced developers across the globe. And this is another great aspect of working with open source projects. You get to work with people from different backgrounds, different educational and career experiences. So you have developers that are self-taught, you will have developers who have university degrees, you have those that are at the very beginning of the journey, you have those that are very, very experienced, Java oldies, as I was told. Not everyone likes this phrase, but I think it's a really good one because it shows your experience. So wherever they are in the Java journey, those developers, engineers that you're working with on the open source project, their contribution is valid and they all learn from each other. And this is the beauty of open source. And finally, one from Otavio, who is well known, I think, to this channel, Otavio Santana, who is a Java champion and frequent guest at Payara webinars and podcast as well. Otavio is a perfect example of why open source collaboration really matters to your career development in the Java industry. So Otavio says, I owe my entire career to the open source community, which has nourished and sustained me. I have been fortunate to work alongside some of the best software engineers learning Java programming from experienced developers who contribute to OpenJDK, and honing my skills in the Jakarta EE technology from the community that created the platform. Thanks to them, I have become proficient in both. So open source communities have power to nourish your potential. They can show you which direction your skills should take you. They can help you to build your profile, not only as contributor to this particular project, but also as a professional in the Java industry, if you choose to choose the path of doing something more than contributing to that project. If you choose the right project, and what right means, we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, you will find the right people to learn from. So you will observe, you'll be able to observe what they are working on, what contributions they make, what type of problems they encounter in their own work on the project, and how they tackle them. So it also helps you to put your work in the perspective that you might be frustrated about dealing with certain issues or bugs or problems, and then you see that you're not the only one. And if you consider yourself less experienced, you can see that the same issues affect those more experienced people as well. So it's a really good thing to be part of this community. You will also see that even the most experienced Java developers, they will still struggle. So you can help each other, and many times those that are less experienced can actually notice some problems easier than those that are more experienced, and then other way around. And you just learn from each other, and you contribute what you can, and you help to fix issues for the whole community. It's a collective effort in the end. So all of the points that I am focusing on today, they are interconnected. So of course, I already talked about how contributing to the open source project help you develop your own skills, but just on this subject alone, on skill enhancement, when contributing to the open source project, inevitably you will learn new technologies. So you will encounter technologies within the project that you have not worked with, maybe never heard of, or maybe you heard of them, but you never tried them. This may be your opportunity, new integrations, new IDEs, new tools, application servers, you name it. You will refine your coding skills one way or another, even if you don't contribute code, and there are other ways to contribute, not just code. You will, most of the open source community contributions would involve code. So by doing that, you will inevitably refine your coding skills, and this is obviously super important. You will explore different project management methodologies, and this is, I think, one of those areas of open source project contribution that people don't really think about. You can help with documentation writing, you can do admin work, you can clean up the GitHub repository, you can manage tickets, you can even do simple typos corrections, possibly things you haven't done much or at all before, but they are needed as well. So, okay, so let's see also what others have to say in regards to skill enhancement and how open source contribution helped them to develop their Java and other skills. So this is a quote from Mike, who is Mike Redditch, who is a Java champion that I have a pleasure to work with as well on some of the Payara projects. And Mike said that I have learned a tremendous amount. The GitHub processes, creating pull requests, learning about documentation tools such as ASCII docs and Markdown, automating a number of processes via Maven and Gradle. So it's not just about learning the code or how to code. The whole experience is a learning ground. So you learn how to use GitHub properly, how documentation works, where it's hosted, how it's managed, how you can automate processes, all those tools that link back to the project. You have them there available for you to use and learn from. And even if you make mistakes, you learn from that, and you ask another community member for help and for guidance, and you learn. So lots of projects have their own guidance and tips on how to take part. So you can familiarize yourself with those beforehand before you start working on that project. This, again, is a learning ground, and it gives you a better understanding of the project itself, but also on how to manage things within that project and manage your contribution. And all of it pays off eventually. So when you have to do similar work as part of your job, this is where your hands-on experience literally pays off. You can use it. This is the training that you take that you will benefit from in the future, or even currently in your workplace or whatever other project that you work on. So over to the next example, another one from Ottavio. Ottavio says, in addition to hard skills, I have also developed my soft skills. I have learned effective communication and confident presentation and have become a polyglot. So this is another great example that shows how open source contribution is not just about enhancing your code skills. It's also much more than that, or it could be much more than that. You can explore and learn much more while working on the open source project. So communication skills, collaboration, teamwork, even language skills. All of these are really, really possible for you to learn as part of the open source project. So open source projects, by the nature, they are driven by passionate communities. And as true communities, they have shared goals and values. They provide you with lots of networking opportunities if you are willing to take those. And they give you an opportunity to receive some unofficial but still mentorship and support. So this is also where I thought it would make sense for me around community building and product building, which I'm going to talk about as well, and what I mean by that. It makes sense for me maybe to tell you a little bit more about my own context, as my role is literally, part of my role is literally community building. So this goes back to my beginnings in Java industry, which I've mentioned at the beginning, and also the start of Payara itself. So like I said at the beginning, I started with building some, with working with other application servers, and I actually started this within this industry by running small Java communities around JBoss and Glassfish, which was great. And it was an amazing experience to actually see people passionate about the technology, just committing their time, their effort, their skills, because they wanted to, not because they had to. And they committed those to those projects. And Payara itself started as a project, and it started back in around 2014 when Glassfish support, enterprise support for Glassfish, or commercial support for Glassfish was abandoned by Oracle. And we basically decided that we, because we had a lot of Glassfish experience within the company that founded Payara was called C2B2. We had a lot of Glassfish experience, and we also really appreciated Glassfish, and we worked on it for many, many years, had lots of skills. And we knew that there are a lot of users out there who don't want to lose Glassfish. It was a great technology, and we thought, okay, let's help those users, and those were both open source users and closed source users. So at the beginning we thought we're going to just help with support, but then we discovered that that's not enough, that we actually have to create a separate product. And this is where the open source allowed us to do that, because we could take the code because it was open source and we could work on it. And that's how Payara server was created. And everything at that point evolved around a few developers funded by C2B2, a few engineers, and everyone else who really believed in Glassfish, really didn't want Glassfish to go away. They believed in the power of this open source project as well, and they really wanted this legacy to stay and become groundwork for something new. And that something new became Payara eventually, and that was amazing to witness. And it's still paying off to this day. Obviously, Payara Platform Community Edition is still here, still relies heavily on community contributions. We recently ran a community survey. Community is still very active, and we get a lot of feedback on what we should be focusing on next. And it's really, really helpful. And this is what we are still very much focusing on. So the truth is that even years from those purely open source project beginning, we still rely on that community. It's still a huge part of Payara, not just Payara now, but also the whole Jakarta technology that relies on community work and community contribution. And I will talk about Jakarta a little bit more in a few minutes, especially in the context of Jakarta and community contribution. It's really, really important for Jakarta. Okay, so enough maybe about my specific use case here, and we can see what my colleagues have to say on the community building aspect.
Sorry, Dominika. First of all, amazing gift that you have, and I was wondering again concerning the theme of community building, and is very near to me also. Could you wrap up what you said a little bit and take into account how does contributing to open source help with the community building? So can you?
Yeah, so this is basically, I think, an interesting part of it is it's the community building, and it's also a product building. And this is I've got a couple of good examples that will, I think, help to answer this question, because I think the community building within the open source project is actually contributing, obviously, to the building of the product that we are working on. So the product, the software, whatever we want to call it, at the end of the day, the project usually creates a product at the end of it, or is working on the product. And this is the big part of community building. So this is what's really important for me, and this is, I think, what a lot of contributors may not be aware of, because a lot of the times, and if it's a one-off contribution here and there, it doesn't seem like you are doing a huge amount of work, or it may not seem like it, because you are fixing one bug, or you are fixing something within documentation. It seems small, but actually it's huge, and it makes the product be what it is. So that's, I think my next couple of slides will answer this question in a bit more detail.
Thank you, Dominika. Please go ahead.
No, that's great. So yeah, so this is where so again, I am not actually a product manager, but I do work with our product team, and Elias is one of our product managers, and he shows you a unique view of this open source contribution and how he is at the receiving end. He listens to what community does, what community wants, where the community is struggling, what challenges they face, and what needs they want the project and the product to meet. So Elias says, we rely heavily on our community members and their experiences. Their help in identifying the right problems to solve and the right way to solve them is invaluable. Payara is first and foremost a product developed by the community for the community. The enterprise Java world is huge, and no one person or company can steer its direction. So I think that answers the question really well. Elias answers this question really well. Payara, and not just Payara, but any other open source project, when you think about it, is developed by the community for the community. And for product managers, product builders, community involvement is invaluable. How else would they know how to build a product, right? We can't, like, what to focus on. We can't all stay in our own bubbles as those product owners, in a way, whether that's a company or a foundation. Yes, we can use the services of like market researchers. We can do our surveys, which is great, and it really helps, but it doesn't quite work like this entirely, sort of in the Java industry that is heavily driven by open source, where community contributors basically dictate huge part of projects and product development future. And you may not, as a contributor, you may not be aware of it. Sorry. So as contributors to the project, you help to steer the direction, the future direction of the product and the project that you are working on. So you help to show where most attention is needed. You help to define the roadmap. You are essentially a part of it. So this is why I say it's not just community building, but that you do as part of the open source project. What you do is also a product building, and by building the community around the product, you build the product itself. And this is what I find the most exciting, I think, about open source projects, because you are really part of it when you contribute. So this is another quote from one of my colleagues, Alfonso. And he's saying, when contributing to the community, we help the ecosystem grow and advance together as a group to have modern specifications and tools on the market. So Alfonso is one of our engineers, and his quote is all about how your involvement contributes to the direction of the project and products you help to build, essentially. It's the users that should dictate the direction of the products that they use day to day, right? If you want a specific project or a specific piece of software to change in one way or another, open source allows you to take things in your own hands. Does it take time? Of course. Does it take effort? Quite a lot of it, quite often in most cases, but it is a collective effort, like we said before, and you actually have tangible direct influence on this, so which could never be the case really in any of the closed source products. So finally, on the community building subject, this is a quote from Tanya Obradovic, Jakarta EE program manager, again from that other side of those projects. And of those open source contributions. She says our contributors can influence the future of cloud native open source Java and build new relationships with leading players in the Java ecosystem. And it sounds big, but it is big. And I don't think contributors realize how big of a job they're doing by contributing, and how much they are actually contributing to steering the direction of leading technologies. And this is obviously, in my case, where I'm sitting, it's Jakarta EE. and your contributions literally write the future of the technology that you are contributing to. So it is even bigger than it seems, especially in this case. For Jakarta example, you are contributing to the leading Java market technology and have part in deciding about its future direction. So it's huge when you consider how many organizations, huge organizations, are using those technologies. You really actually have tangible influence here. So to sum up, community building as part of the open source contribution, you become a part of the community of the project that you choose to take part in, you choose to contribute to. You often get fixes to your issues quicker because it's a community contribution. There's lots of people working on it. Very possibly a lot of people struggling with the same issue, and they are also looking for a fix. So if you don't find it, it's very likely that someone else finds it and shares it with the rest of the community. And all the way around, you may be the one finding it and sharing it and contributing. You literally build the product you're contributing to, you are part of it. And contributions drive future development, bug fixes, documentation improvements. They shape the overall direction of the project through discussions and feedback. So the next one I want to talk about is impact and recognition. So we talked a lot about things that you can do, things that you can give to the open source projects. It does take time and effort in various proportions, depending on how much time you want to give or you can give. It's absolutely your choice. This is the beauty of open source as well. And you only give what you want and you can, not more nor less. But the effort you give, the time, the skills that you contribute, it all pays back in different ways. So we already said that your contributions do directly influence technology direction. They address critical issues, so you get fixes from the community, which you can use for your own benefit, but you also contribute fixes back whenever you can. So you find a solution or a fix, but as part of a community, you share it. It's natural. This is how it works. So you end up creating solutions for a wide range of users. You benefit from solutions created by others. It's a win-win. And open source projects owners know all this very well. And in majority of cases, they make sure that their contributors get the recognition that they deserve. So it looks different for different projects. And sometimes the only recognition you get is a vote on your fixed issue, is a nice comment. Going back to, for example, Peter's quote, where he actually had a nice conversation, recognition from another person at Payara who appreciated the fix, and obviously that impacted his future career as well eventually. Sometimes, and you get a online pat on the back from another community member as well, but sometimes you do get a bit more, and here are some examples. So yes, there is this appreciation there. So because my world evolves around Jakarta EE, I've got some examples from Jakarta EE. This is Jakarta EE has a whole program actually dedicated to contributors and committers, and they are regularly spotlighted and highlighted on Jakarta social channels. And here are some examples. This is really just one small example of how people are sort of appreciated, and there's shout outs going out. These screens are obviously from X, Twitter, but they're being posted on other social channels. They're being posted on the website as well. So your contribution is being highlighted via Jakarta EE social channels and the website. So that's just one of the examples. And another example is from Apache Foundation, who are recently celebrating their 25th anniversary. And they've been running this appreciation campaign, asking community to share their contribution experience, just to sort of summarize those 25 years of working on this together. And obviously there's been, I don't know, countless amounts of contributions over the years. You can see many examples of the Apache on the Apache Twitter account, but this one example is from Lenny, and it's not a coincidence. Lenny is actually one of the contributors to Payara as well. Apache Foundations are spotlighting many more of their contributors and also sharing those stories, open source contribution stories with their followers. So do check it out if you want to find out more. So then off to some examples from Payara. We have loads of amazing contributors to our projects in GitHub, and we are spotlighting them. These are just the sort of spotlights that we did in 2021. They came with some nice images, so I thought I'll include those. But every time we have a monthly release, which includes an important fix from a community member. Those community members are also spotlighted in our documentation, in our blog. So we do hope that we don't miss anyone, and we do make sure that we shout out to our community contributors. And of course, all of this is nice and lovely, but what about more tangible payoff, right? Like this is great, but how about, is there more there other than the fixes that I'm getting and all of the things that we talked about already? So I did say about learning experiences, knowledge transfer, skills improvement. So your open source contributions can directly influence your career, and I think that is the biggest part of this open source contribution payoff that you're getting, other than obviously being able to work on the projects that you enjoy and that you really, really like. So we've mentioned that already. I think Ottavio's quote was the best to summarize it. And for some of you, if you don't know Ottavio, you can check his LinkedIn profile, how much he's built his career over the years, and a lot of it is based on the open source contribution and open source projects. But all of that you contribute on GitHub is traceable. It is something that you can refer back to. It's things that you can take away with you, add to your CV. Some contributions can literally change your career path or enhance it. If you are looking for a specific role within a specific company, like in Peter's example, if you have already contributed to their project, you are ahead of a competition. Obviously, of course, your chances of getting a job or this contract in such cases are much higher, because you are already familiar with the project. You already know about it. You can prove that you've contributed. You can prove that you already have been working on this technology. This experience is a proven experience. It's a no-brainer that you get a lot of extra points there for that. And networking, building those connections with other Java developers, it also pays off to build your career as a Java developer. If you are thinking of maybe being a bit more prominent in the Java industry, if you want to try and be a Java champion, build it all up, maybe be a speaker at the conferences, share your knowledge, share your experience, open source contribution is the way to do it. So you do help to enhance your skills and also enhance your networking and people that you know, people that you can learn from, and people that can help you to steer your career path in the right direction. So I think this is also a good opportunity to mention that we are actually, we recently announced that we are running our second edition of Virtual Payara Conference. And on day one, which is Developer Insight track, which is focusing mostly on developers, Java developers, and content for Java developers, we are running a community roundtable discussion. And this is where we would really love our community contributors, not necessarily those that contribute code, but also those that use Payara platform community, those that are passionate about the technology that we are developing. We would really love for you to join us for this roundtable. So if anyone who is listening is interested, then do message me on LinkedIn or do email me at info@payara.fish, and we would love to have you on the roundtable. And this is also the way we want to spotlight our contributors. We want to give kudos to those who have been part of this community since we've started, and give you an opportunity to talk about benefits, challenges, ups and downs, what you love about it, what you hate about it, hopefully not much, and how it is to be part of the Payara community. So if you are interested in joining us, then please do let me know. And we would love to have you on the roundtable. And the Virtual Payara Conference is actually open for anyone. So whether you are using Payara platform or not, I do encourage you to register. It's a free event. It's the theme for this edition is securing your Java ecosystem. Developer Insight, which is like the most useful for Java developers, is on the 26th of June. And then we have Strategic Insight, which is still very much interesting for anyone who is working with Java technologies, and especially to those who are interested in cyber resilience and Cyber Resilience Act, for example, which is going to be something that we'll be covering a lot on the second day. It's a free conference. And it's you can register for it today if you go to payara.fish/VPC, so Virtual Payara Conference, or just go to payara.fish and you will find the link at the top of the of the page. So yes, so we will be talking a lot about how you can contribute to the open source project, but also other things around designing secure and resilient applications for Jakarta EE, and like I mentioned, Cyber Resilience Act, and in general security and cyber resilience for Java users. Okay, so before I move on to sort of more practical advice on how to get involved in the open source projects, let's talk about the final benefit of open source contribution, which is continuous learning. So this point, of course, we've already touched on in various aspects, but let's focus on it solely for the next few minutes. Open source projects, again, by their own nature, facilitate continuous learning. And by taking part in those open source projects, you stay updated with the latest trends, you learn to adapt best practices, and you explore emerging technologies. So a lot of the things that you may not know about, those technologies, those new trends, you may learn about them and see them in action, and see other people using them, see use cases by working on the open source project. And the pool to learn from is huge. And again, going back to the global members of the community with various educational and work experience backgrounds, I don't think there's a place of work that will give you such a variety as most open source projects do. And all people working on those projects are there because they want to and because they choose to. So that gives it this sort of level of passion that is difficult to find anywhere else. So this is another quote from a Java champion, David Haberfinger, that I have a pleasure to work with as well with Payara. Open source contribution facilitates networking. It puts you in touch with very talented software developers, which can help your career. It also shows potential employers that you are a self-motivated individual, and it is a good way to show your software development abilities. So yeah, this quote from David pretty much summarizes the continuous learning aspect of open source contribution and what we said before about your career development. Not much more to add to it, to be fair, because we've said it all before. This is just a confirmation from someone who has achieved a lot over the years and became a Java champion by taking part in open source projects during their journey. So the opportunities to learn and to put those newly learned skills into practice are endless, I think, within open source projects, especially that they are also interchangeable. So you can use those skills you've gained in one project while working on another project. You can take them away and use them for your work, for your clients, and they may have nothing to do. Those skills may have nothing to do with open source as you take them away. So it benefits other areas of your life. So the key here is that you learn something with every contribution, with every suggestion, every GitHub comment, every pull request is all a learning ground, and it's amazing. So yeah, so we talked about what open source contributions bring to the table, and now hopefully I got you a little bit more hyped up to start your journey with the open source contributions. So really the question is, how do you start, right? Where do you begin? What do you do? The best place to start is choose your project, right? This advice is not really only my advice. I talked to a few people about it, and really everyone says the same thing. Start where you already are. Don't try and do something new to begin with, because you may get discouraged. So what products are you already using? What software, what open source projects that you are already using? What you are already involved in? This may be the best place to start. Take a look at the issues on GitHub. Is there anything that you want to help with? Maybe you've actually encountered an issue already and you need a fix for it. There's no fix. Maybe you can fix it. Maybe you already are on the way of fixing it, or you actually found a fix already. This may be your first contribution. Check if anything is missing in the documentation, something you felt needed and couldn't find. You can comment on the issues, start conversation, check if there are any rules to the contribution. This may also be a really good way to start, because some of the projects actually have very clear rules, and that helps you sort of find out what is the best first step. So I think the best tips for getting started is choosing the project that is aligned with your interest and what you are already doing. understanding the project guidelines, if there are there, and the contribution process, that makes it much more easy because you have those steps they can follow, and starting with small contributions to begin with and gradually increasing your involvement. So how can you contribute, right? So there are other ways, many different ways that you can contribute, and I've mentioned a couple of them before. So let's summarize. Obvious one that everyone usually thinks about when you think about open source contributions is code. And yes, that is the majority of the open source contribution that the contributors do, but there's much more to it, and you can contribute more than just code. So UX and UI, maybe you can help with usability, maybe you can help with accessibility if you can design. This is another area that you can explore. You can help with documentation. You can, like I said before, you can see whether there are anything missing in the documentation that you actually find that you need and it isn't there. Write it. Find out how you can contribute on that side of the project. Translations. This is a great thing about Jakarta E community, for example. We have a really, really great Chinese contributing community that are helping us with translations. And when you translate into, if you have skills in another language that isn't English, because obviously English is usually the most common for documentation, for example. If you have other skills with other languages, and you help to translate the product itself or the documentation, it helps to grow that product within that geographical location. So obviously it makes it more accessible to people from different locations. So this is a really, really good way to contribute. And Payara platform, we have versions in different languages that were created by our contributors, and it's amazing, and we would not be able to do it ourselves. So translation is not an obvious one, but you can do it as well. Admin work, I did mention that, and Mike Redlich's quote was a really good example of it. You can help with GitHub organization in many different ways. Take part in the discussion. So again, you don't necessarily have to contribute on GitHub. Get involved on the forum. Answer questions on Stack Overflow. People ask questions about this project. You know the answer, post the answer. There's lots of conversations going on socials. There's lots of conversations in Slack channels. Depending where that project actually has its community discussions, it can be different places, can be socials, can be forums, can be Stack Overflow. Take part in the conversation, take part in the discussion. That's also a contribution. And talk about this product, talk about this project, use it, demo it, write about it. This is also a huge, huge contribution that you can make and make the project grow and make it more visible and share it and get more people to work on it. So I've got this little video here, which in less than 2 minutes, and it's a video from Eclipse Foundation from Jakarta EE. It summarizes really well how you can start your contribution to the open source project. So let's have a look.
Want to contribute to a cloud-native open source project like Jakarta EE? It's actually pretty straightforward. Anybody can contribute by following these 5 steps. The first step is to create an Eclipse account. When contributing as an individual, you need to sign the Eclipse Contributor Agreement, which confirms your intent to provide contributions of code and documentation under the licenses used by the Eclipse projects to which you're contributing. However, in the case your employer is already a member of the Jakarta EE working group, your employer has a member committer and contributor agreement in place that covers all their employees who are contributing, and you do not need to do anything. Based on your interest, you can then visit github.com/eclipse-ee4j for the code and specifications, or github.com/JakartaEE for the Jakarta.ee website to find a project that interests you and read the project's contribution guide to learn more about coding style and other guidelines. Next, write your contribution. This typically takes the form of code, documentation, or collateral submitted to the project source code repository. When your collateral or code is ready, you will then need to create a GitHub issue or a pull request. This is your opportunity to tell others about changes you've made to the project. After an issue or a pull request has been opened, you'll work with the project team to review the potential changes and add follow-up commits before your changes are merged into the base branch. Once your work has been merged, you will have successfully contributed to an open source project that will be widely used. Congratulations! You are now part of the Jakarta EE contributor community. For more information on
Okay, so yeah, so this is a really nice animation that summarizes how you can contribute to the open source project, and it's obviously an example from Jakarta E, but it can be applied to many other projects. It's very similar pattern for many other projects out there. So it pretty much tells you how those first steps look like and how you can take those first steps to start contributing to your favorite or to your chosen open source project. So just a quick recap. We said that open source and open source contributions are all about collaboration, skills enhancement, community building, impact and recognition, and continuous learning. So, and how do you contribute? If you were to remember just 5 initial steps, start where you already are. Don't look anywhere further to begin with. This is probably the best place. Projects that you are already working on, or projects that you are already following, projects that you are willing to explore. Start small. Don't try and do too much to begin with. Start small and build it up. Learn from others. Be open to feedback. Be open to making mistakes. Watch what others are doing. Learn from them. Give back. This is self-explanatory. You give back, you also get things back. They come back to you, and do enjoy the ride. Thank you. Okay, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Dominika. Thanks for your amazing talk. I was wondering that and thinking that this talk is very, very dear, as I said to me, and what I do, because here at X6 we don't have a product. We are a software house, but at the same time we work a lot of the community, of community building in our bases. And we usually say that being community driven is part of our DNA, and we work community in terms of meetup groups. We also promote and do some software like as internal projects and put that at open source for the community. We have also our blog posts, our blog, our YouTube channel, this live stream. This is everything for and to the community, and your talk, I feel
exactly
it when
I think there's so much more, right? About there's this thinking that community contribution is code on GitHub, and it is, but there's so much more to it.
So much more, exactly.
Yes, yeah. And it also means that people that are not necessarily technical. I don't write code. I'm not a technical person, but I do contribute, and I contribute in other ways, and we all can do that. So it depends. It really, what are your skills and where your passion is, and you can give back what you know and what you can, basically, and it doesn't necessarily have to be code.
Yeah, I fully agree, because I'm not a coder also. I do not code, and I think that I contribute to the community with when I promote an event, when I have a call for collaboration for example, for writing in our blog, or to be a speaker in our meetup. So I think this is a way also to contribute for the community. And thank you for that, and thank you for your talk, Dominika.
Pleasure.
So while we see if you have some questions from the audience, I would like to ask you the final question that I told you that the other speaker left to you. That is, what knowledge base do you use to improve your technical skills?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question to ask a marketing and community builder person.
Non-tech, exactly.
Yeah, but actually, no, it's a really good one, because I think it might be an unusual answer, but then at the same time, again, I think people don't think about it as sort of your the way to learn, and the way, like a typical way to learn more and enhance your skills. But I do learn a lot from my team members, so I do try and use as much as I can of the resources that I have available within our internal wiki, within the company. I work with amazing team, with people with all different experiences, again, with different skills. And I do value their input and their knowledge. So I do learn a lot from them, a lot from what they share within that internal wiki within the company that I work for. So this is where I often go to learn more, and just conversations, just asking questions. So it's not your typical place library of resources, but it's library of brain power in a way. So this is what I really like. That's how I like to learn from other people, observing other people, but also as a person that is dealing with a lot of marketing and community building within this Java industry. I do rely a lot on what Eclipse Foundation is putting out there. So obviously Jakarta EU website and the resources on Jakarta EU website, the resources that my colleagues produce about Jakarta, about Java, about Kubernetes, about Docker, about cloud, all of those. I'm also very much learning from those. And specifically from marketing perspective, I really like content from Chartered Institute of Marketing and their training courses, and also HubSpot. They have really good resources that are also free to use. And I think a lot of Java developers could benefit, and I've got actually another talk on that as well, about contributing to your marketing sort of activity within the company you work for, or just your own, if you are an individual working for yourself, how to market yourself and how to sort of learn those skills around sales and marketing that will benefit you yourself as a Java developer. I think there's a lot out there available, and HubSpot is my favorite place because I do enjoy the format of the resources, but there's much more on that, and I think not just marketers can benefit from reading and learning a little bit more on that.
Thank you, Dominika. Amazing answer, because also some of your answers are also mine, because as a non-technical, I also read from my colleagues and from what they know. So I relate to you in that sense. So I'm seeing that you have some questions from the audience, but okay, maybe we have one. Yeah.
The biggest challenge that Danny, my personal example. Okay, let me think. So because I don't contribute code, but I do work on, or I work occasionally in GitHub. And I work with like Jakarta EE and Microprofile, for example. So to be absolutely honest with you, when I started, I found it really challenging to just understand GitHub. And that may sound a little bit silly, but actually for someone who isn't familiar with GitHub, it can be quite overwhelming. So my biggest challenge was to start, just to take that first step and not be scared of just managing the issues and all of those definitions that seem very overly technical for a non-technical person. But once I did it, I've actually noticed that it's not as difficult, but you have to do it. So that, I think that first step to using GitHub a couple of years ago was my biggest challenge so far. And then maybe on a little bit outside of the GitHub space and coding, just sort of stepping out of your comfort zone and start applying to conferences and actually doing talks, which is again contributing in a slightly different way, but just sort of taking that further step. That was also another challenge. But again, I think challenges are great in the sense that once you over them, you actually notice how much you've learned, and next time you do something similar is not as difficult anymore.
I think then there's another one.
So not a specific routine really, in the sense that because I work on the project as part of like marketing committee, then the routine is really just to be systematic and just we have regular calls, we have regular conversations with other contributors or with other member participants of Eclipse Foundation. For Jakarta EE, for example, that's I think the best example, and just being consistent, being present, taking part in the conversation. A lot of the time you would expect to volunteer. It's not like someone is telling you, Dominika, you do this, and John, you do that. It's actually who wants to do this, like who's up for this task, who can help with that. So obviously there's a foundation that is leading the project, but they do need our involvement. So it's this willingness to be proactive that is sort of, maybe it's not a routine, but just sometimes I have to remind myself, okay, I haven't actually volunteered to do anything over the last 2 calls. I'll do it today because actually I should contribute, and I actually feel like I can contribute my time and my knowledge in this area. So maybe, I don't know if that answers the question specifically, but that's the way I do it.
Thank you, Dominika, and thank you, Dani, for your questions. Let's see if we have more. If not, I think that you can close it. But before that, I would like to ask you to leave your question for the next speaker. So please, if you may.
Yeah, so my question is related obviously to what I have been talking about. So my question to the next speaker would be, have you contributed to any open source projects in the past or currently? And if you have, what is your favorite project? And if you haven't, is there a project that you would like to contribute to?
Amazing. I will forward you the answers if you don't see our next don't watch.
I'll try to make it.
If not, I will forward you the answer, because I think that will be very, very nice. So thank you, Dominika. Thank you for your time, for your availability. Thank you also, and I forgot to say that in the beginning, and sorry for that. Thank you, Otavio, because you did the bridge between us. So thank you, Otavio, for bringing Dominika to us and for this amazing talk that she delivered. So thank you again. And for all of you that are at home, I hope to see you next time. Thank you, Dominika.
Pleasure. Thank you. Have a good evening.